All right, now we're going to talk about bird dog exercise sequences. We love these exercises, again, for connecting the upper body to the lower body, helping people understand their lumbopelvic control, all sorts of great nerdy things, and exercise variety for your clients. But like all the exercises we've shown so far, it's really important to kind of progress your way through the series. We're going to start with a leg-only bird dog. So to set up for this one, we're not going to use a sandbag. We're going to get on the floor in quadruped or all fours. I want you to spread your fingers nice and wide on the floor, and you should have your arms wider than what's normally kind of comfortable for you. And same with your feet. We're going to tuck your feet and make sure the knees are actually fairly wide apart, at least hip width. We tend to kind of line up with our knees quite close together when we get into this position. So intentionally put them a little wider. We're going to push into the floor, and then I'm going to drive one leg out, keeping my foot kind of nice and close along the floor's surface. This is my leg-only bird dog. In order to perform this properly, I'm really going to have to fight my body wanting to shift away from where the leg's moving into the other side hip. If I turn my body around, hopefully you'll be able to see what that compensation looks like. So nice wide hands and knees. As I go to lift my leg, my body is really tempted to shift over like this. In fact, if you were just to perform it on your own, you probably wouldn't even really notice how much the body shifts. What we want to do is counter shift into my left side in order for it to look like I'm not moving at all except for that leg. So you can perform, typically with this exercise, we like to perform all reps on one leg before switching over to the other leg. You can play around with going back and forth, but it's a little bit more difficult to manage, kind of preventing that shift from side to side. All right, second exercise in the series is our sandbag, quadruped, bird dog, or lateral pull, isolateral pull, and bird dog. Okay, so we're going to get our sandbag. The orientation I like to use for this one, I'm going to show you kind of two different views of my body position. But I actually turn the sandbag logo so it's upside down when it faces me, like that, just in front of my thighs. And I'm going to place the actual logo on the bag in line with my thigh. Okay, as I'm standing in that same posture I used for the previous exercise version, right over top of the bag. Now, I'm going to grip the handle with my arm, lock that elbow out, pack my shoulder down, work on that anti-shift position as I pull on the bag. So I'm actually pulling like I'm trying to drag the bag across the floor, but with not quite enough effort to actually get the bag to drag. And then I'm very carefully kicking my leg out, careful not to let my body shift and relax into that hip of the leg that's still kneeling on the floor. Normally, I'll do that exercise all on one side before switching to the other side. So I'll show you kind of both arm positions. Here we've got this arm, elbow locked out, working to not let my body shift toward my right leg. Shaking and trembling is normal. That exercise is so much more difficult than it looks. Switch legs so you can see what that looks like. Again, when I'm lining up, I want my hand at least to be in line with my leg, if not slightly wider, to give me a good base of support. Everything's working. You can kick the heel a little bit higher, but I suggest that you stay with the foot almost skimming the floor. Otherwise, what kind of tends to happen is that we tend to arch our lower back as we're kicking the leg out and compensate where our core should be working, especially if you lack a little bit of strength in your glutes or mobility in that hip flexor. It's much easier to keep the core engaged when the leg is lower, and you can work on building that hip extension with other exercise variations and practice. Okay, so that's exercise number 2, the iso lateral drag and bird dog. And now we're going to go into the full meal deal. So we're actually going to start dragging the bag across the floor as we kick the leg out. Okay, so again, I'll show you the front view and the side views. I can get myself lined up. This time I'm going to be alternating sides. So as I kick the leg out, I slowly drag the bag across. In some ways, it's more challenging than the previous exercise, and in others, it's easier. So I get a little bit of a rest on one side when I move from one side to the next. Awesome. I'll show you guys the side view of that as well. You really want to make sure with this one, again, that you keep that nice long body line, that when you're pulling on the bag, moving it across, that the arm isn't bending or lifting the bag off the floor. You're going to keep the elbow totally straight. It's just a very small movement, so the logo will end up lined up with your thigh. Awesome stuff. Give those a try and let us know how they go.